The book of Micah lifts this query. It raises this interrogative: what does the Lord require of thee? The word comes back to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before the Lord. Let me first of all thank you for the privilege of being with you. They say I only have 2 minutes, and I'm only going to use these 2 minutes so that you all can get out in a reasonable period of time. But I'm coming from the State House. I just saw a good friend. I don't know where Norm is, but we were in Boy Scouts together almost 55 years ago at Shiloh Baptist Church. So God will bring you full circle in your life. And I tell that story because my mother came here from West Virginia, cleaning other people's houses as a live-in maid. And so much of the things that I'm doing right now is because of those men and women that deposited so much in my life, that made such a powerful impression on my life. Because at 12 or 13 years old, my mother did everything that she could do, and the church. And then I was acting like a fool. And so my pastor and others who believed in me so much began to make such a powerful imprint in my life. And it continued throughout my life. So I'm glad to be with you today to talk about this issue. My assignment is, how does a bill become a law? I've got information from you. There are some steps. It talks about it. Before that young man left, that's one of my sons. I adopt all of these young men that do incredible things before you ended your session. But he talked about the technical things. The technical things with regard to creating a law is that either an individual or a legislator looks at a concept or an idea or an issue and then brings it before the legislature. Then we begin to work with our Legislative Service Commission. Those are the research people. Most of them are lawyers. They kind of look and they do a lot of research around that particular issue. And then they draft a bill. And I have bills in the packet. I'm going to leave you all with the packet. And then we look at that bill and then try to get other legislators to sign on to that legislation. And then when the legislation gets assigned to a committee, and then we go to the committee, we have sponsors or joint sponsors on that committee, and then we hear that legislation in committee. And generally 3 or 4 times in committee, it's voted out of committee, and then it goes from the House to the Senate. It's a bicameral system. We have the House, there are 99 members in the House and 34 members in the Senate. And then it has to go to the Senate. If the bill is supported in the Senate, gets a vote in the Senate, then it comes back to the House. And then it goes to the governor. And then the governor signs it. I did all of that. That's kind of the technical issue with it. But in many ways, many of these bills, it takes a long time in many cases, even with very serious issues. Sometimes it takes years before they ever come to the House for us to vote on. We just voted on the bill with the man that poured the gasoline on that woman. It was a very serious issue with very serious implications. That woman died. There are times that before I get to the House to look at legislation, I'm up all night long thinking about a bill that we're going to have to vote on, because many of these bills, they're life and death issues in the state legislature. So we take this work extremely seriously. In the House, I serve in the last General Assembly, I was on the Sentencing Commission for the state of Ohio. I served on our Prisons Commission, so I would go into prisons. I served on our Infant Mortality Commission. We talked about all of these things are so inextricably linked. And that's why we're really here today. This year I'm serving on our veterans. I'm the ranking member in the legislature on our Armed Services and Homeland Security Committee and Veterans Committee. And I mention that because when I know that you just heard from the judge today, because when I was on Columbus City Council, we established specialty courts. And one of those was around veterans because of the higher amounts of suicide with veterans and all of the issues that's going on with them. And so rather than put veterans in prison, was trying to find ways that we could ameliorate that. We could work through that situation so, again, they could provide for their families and be productive to their children and their families. And so this year I'm serving on probably about 7 or 8 committees in the House, most of them standing committees. But legislation, and I kind of gave you the roadmap of kind of how these things are done, is not easy, because the most important person in a democracy are you. And without folks coming to the legislature and sharing with us those things that are critical to them, that's important to them. We talk about reentry. None of that can happen without your voices, and the importance of making sure that men and women are able to leave incarceration and go back to their families and contribute to their families and make a difference in the lives of their children. So that your voice here today is so vital, is so important. And so what I'm encouraging you to do, we have the technical side. We kind of explain to you kind of what can happen in the legislature. But what most happen is by you being proactive, writing us, calling us, talking about things that's important to you and your families, and making sure that we are being held accountable. But while you're holding us accountable, I want you to be accountable. You know, I live on the east side of Columbus, and there are nights that my wife and I wake up hearing gunshots. Every time I was on the floor of the house before we got out of recess, and I stood on the floor of the house talking about that 8-year-old child and 3-year-old child that was hanging on for her life because of gun violence. So all of these things are so inextricably linked. Your presence here, I want you to know, is valuable. What we do as a faith community, as a community of government and nonprofits. I know John Rush is going to get up and talk very soon about what he's doing to employ people. All of those things are essential. We already took a vote in the legislature concerning this issue of band-to-box, but they wouldn't have happened without folks coming to the legislature, talking with legislators around those issues that are important. So God bless you. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. My number is on in this folder.